Welcome again to more conversations about those three ancient cuisines which most influenced the West: China, Greece, and Rome. We're talking way back. One of the things we need to talk about from way back is soup. Did it ever occur to you that people could not have soup until the pot was invented? I know that sounds stupid, but think about it. Some things in our history are so profound that the invention of a certain item will change the course of history. The refrigerator changed the course of history. The soup pot changed the course of history. It was probably several thousand years ago. It was probably clay. Although we do know that even the American Indian had a basket made of grass, woven grass, and he wove it so tightly that when he soaked it in water, it would hold water. It would swell up a bit and be watertight, and he would put hot rocks in that along with water, and in that he could begin to boil things, you see. But there was also a clay pot that was common in Europe at the time, you see, and in Greece and in Rome. Wonderful changes came about when you could begin to make soup, because it's one of the most ancient food products we have. The pot itself changed the whole works. The name kakavia in Greece, is my Greek that bad? All right, let me try again. Kakavia? I don't know which it is. If you're Greek, let me know. Kakavia is the name of a fish soup, but the term kakavia refers to a pot. So the Greeks, you see, when talking about soup, say, it's in the pot. It's from the pot, and by that means soup. That's how important the pot was to our history. Rome had a very interesting thing happen in its history, because there was a Godfrey, a big shot, who during one of the great crusades, during the 1400s, something like that, 1300s, Godfrey of Bouillon. Now he was from Liguria in Italy, and he went off to war, and he took his troops, and they took off their helmets and put them in the fire and made soup from vegetables that they'd talk vegetables out of the locals, you see, some vegetables and herbs, and that's the background of bouillon. You thought it was French, didn't you? No, it's Greek. I mean, it's Italian. It's the Ligurian region in Italy, a very Italian food product that we now call bouillon, or basic soup stock. The greatest soup makers, however, are probably the Chinese, certainly the oldest ones. They will make soup out of anything you can imagine. Let me show you something I think is fascinating. These are products that are for very expensive soups that you'd only have at a very great banquet if you were, your birthday or something like this. This is a shark fin. Look at that. It's a dried shark fin. Rides on the back of the shark, through the water. Where's the music? Now let's get the shark music. No. These were you soak these in water for a day or so, and then boil them and boil them and boil them, and finally they turn down. They're fibrous. Here's one that was already processed. You can buy these in the local markets. These are from Hong Kong. You see, the shark fin turns into a weird kind of gelatinous fiber, and this is what you put in the soup. These take just a few minutes to cook. If you have one that still has the gray skin on it, it takes 6 days to prepare. You boil it over and over again. This is not quickie soup. We're not talking Instabroth here. We're talking soups that you prepare for your family because you love them and you spend months, literally, preparing for soup. It takes a long time to peel these and dry them and then re-prepare them. Here's another one. Only the Chinese would do such a thing, and it's wonderful soup. I'm not going to make one for you today because I don't assume that you're going to go out and buy one. These are little bird nests. There's an island off the coast of China that has a tiny swallow that lives on the island, and the island has no vegetation. So the swallow, by the gift of God, through the gifts of God, has a gland that will allow him to regurgitate a kind of mucilage, a gelatin, you see, and with that he glues together little twigs that he finds on the seashore. They wash up on the shore, and he grabs the twigs, and then he burps up this little glue, and he makes it. Stop it! It's gelatin. What do you think horses' hoofs turn into? Gelatin dessert, you see. It's all right to talk this way. Then the natives go out and gather the nests after they dry, and they pick out the little twigs, and what is left is this a bit of gelatin. And this is dissolved in soup stock, and it makes a wonderful, wonderful texture, first of all. I told you that the Chinese love textures, but secondly, it has a very light fish flavor because, of course, the little fish, or the little bird, the swallow, lives on fish. Remember, there's nothing else on the island. So, bird's nest soup, shark fin soup, sounds strange to Westerners, but they are certainly the most famous soup in China. The Chinese, however, can make wonderful soups much less expensive than anybody else. Let me show you how to make a clear Chinese soup stock. The kind that you, well, no, I don't want the kind you have in a Chinese restaurant. That isn't it. Normally in American, you know, the local restaurant that serves dinner number 1, 2, and 3, they make a very weak soup. But let me show you what to do. Go to your merchant, and you can get chicken backs and necks, or you can get the pork neck bones practically free. Very little money. These are pork on this side, and these are chicken. Now, put these in a pot of water, cover them completely, and bring them to a boil. Not quite a boil. What we want to do is to boil the blood out of the meat. That's what makes the soup cloudy. And the blood will form what your grandma used to call skim it. Skim it. It has scum on the top. Time to skim it. Well, I don't want you to skim it. The Chinese would go so far as to bring the soup to a boil until the scum forms, little gray clouds of, little puffy clouds on the top of the soup. You stop everything, throw the liquid down the drain, rinse the bones several times, put them back in the pot, cover them with water, about a quart of water for each pound of bones, and then you want to add a few slices of ginger. And when I say a slice of ginger, I mean something about the size of a 25-cent piece. See what I've done? About the size of a quarter, right? So I want about 75 cents worth. 1, 2, 3. And then the other thing that gives Chinese soup stock a wonderful, wonderful flavor is something called a preserved turnip ball. You buy them in a bag like this in Chinatown. You see how they look? A bag like this in Chinatown. Preserved turnip, they're called. And what you do, I have some that I use all the time here. Aren't they fascinating? They're a little piece of turnip held together by another chunk of turnip. And what you do is soak these in water for a minute and just chop them up and put 2 or 3 of these in your soup pot. Now we're talking several quarts of soup because they're rather strong. And that gives the soup a wonderful, wonderful flavor. Now, let's get on with the soup. So I've prepared a whole bunch of soup stock for you. Don't boil it as long as you would a European soup. European soup, 2 hours. Chinese soup, probably an hour, 15 minutes. That's enough. And then you have a nice clear stock. Drain that. Throw the bones away. Even the neighbor cat won't be interested because they really have no flavor. Get rid of my bones and I'll show you what I have. In this pot, I have prepared. Isn't this pot wonderful? You want to know what it is? Yes, it's a Chinese soup pot. This is made of clay. It's called sand pot. And you see how nice the stock is? See how light it is? Isn't that gorgeous? You see that? I have mine hot and boiling here, ready to go because I want to start making soups for you right away. The first one we're going to do is a basic bean curd soup. So we'll get some soup in the pot or stock. Now remember, this is terribly simple. Once you make Chinese soup stock, you're set to go. That's 1 cup. We'll put 4 cups in here and bring this to a boil. And then I'll get the rest of the ingredients going. There we are. Keep the lid on my pot. Keep this one hot. You don't have to go to all. You don't even have one of these pots, but I do because I think it's a scream. All right. Now, our other ingredients for a bean curd soup, of course. You're very quick today. Right, bean curd. Let me get some water off of this. Bean curd is mostly water. It's made from soybean milk, soybean that's ground up and then cooked and turned into a kind of milk. So I'm just going to get a soybean cake at the supermarket and cut it into 4 pieces. Notice you say, aren't you going to kill yourself? No, because I'm not running the knife back and forth. I'm just running the knife down, you see? I can't hurt myself that way. I can if I start pulling it back and forth. Then it's going to be all over. All right. This is ready. Let it drain for just a minute while I put some pork in the pot. The pot has a nice flavor, but it doesn't have any meat. So let's put in a little bit of pork. And I've just chopped up the pork. This is a good, half a cup or so for about 4 cups of soup of pork, lean pork butt. There's a little bit of fat in it. That's nice. All right, let's let it cook for a minute. And I'm going to get a wooden spoon here. Remember I told you never to use metal things in your pots if you can avoid it? You're really much better off. All right, and we'll put in the bean curd. Bring that to a simmer. And while that's cooking, I'm going to start another one. That's the only way we're going to get by today because that has to heat for a minute. So the second one I want to do is peas and egg. Simple, simple, simple. And that's one of my favorites. I made this for my friend Leroy Ostransky one day, and he wrote an article about it in the paper because he loved soups, and he couldn't believe that peas and eggs would be so good. Well, peas and eggs are really egg flour. And I'm going to show you egg flour from China, and we're going to have egg flour from Italy. Except that in Italy they call them rags. Isn't that wonderful? All right, turn the heat up on that one. We'll go back and forth today. It's going to work.